Well, we're here and we're having trouble getting patients because now we're, little fish in a big pond. And so that's sort of the initial conflict that starts everything forward. We have these huge offices on Rodeo Drive and nobody coming in. So we got to learn how to kind of sell what we do, and which means going to clubs, apparently. So we go to clubs and we start doing our little routine where we try to kind of lure some people in, and that's how we kind of start.
Well, at the beginning of season 5, we're in LA, obviously, because we've moved here. But what's kind of happened is the guys have overextended themselves a little bit. What they've done is they've gone and purchased some real estate on, say, Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills, a little bit more expensive than they should have.
The first episode really is about them trying to make it in LA. They spent all their money on this Rodeo Drive, $5 million sort of complex, and it's crickets in there because nobody's coming. So the first episode is about, okay, how are we going to get patients? How are we going to sort of go from being, big fish in a small pond to the opposite? So that's kind of the fun of it, I think, to see them, instead of being wildly successful, to see sort of these guys in their early 40s, have to be on the bottom and clawing their way up again. So that's where we begin.
When season 5 starts, Julia is really happy, really in a good place, calm place, new life, new love in her life, and that was brilliant too, because around about season 2, I think they thought, God, Julia's always so unhappy. Let's write some funnier stuff for her, or happier stuff, which was great for me. But it just didn't work within the context of the show because it wasn't a show about happy people with everything going well. So then come to season 5, and because she's in a happy place and it works for the storyline that she's happy and other characters aren't, it was really nice for me because I was like thinking to myself, God, this feels really fresh and different.
In Hollywood, she could be anybody. She could make up who she wants to be. Everything is new. She has no baggage here. She has no history here. She comes here with 2 kidneys. She is ready to go.
When season 5 picks up, Matt basically shows up on the doorstep of Sean and Christian's house in Malibu. A little out of his mind, but we don't quite know why.
We find Kimber and Matt holed up in a really disgusting hotel room on this meth binge. And, Kimber, where we saw her last, she was making 7 figures a year. She was doing really, really good. And now she has no money left due to the Scientology church and her meth addiction habit. So that's where we begin, picking at the skin.
How are we going to sort of go from being, big fish in a small pond to the opposite?
They've always been big fish in a little pond. It's time for them to be small fish in a huge pond.
Little fish in a big pond.
Everyone from McNamara Troy are the small fish in the big pond.
See how they swim.
I've got to say, selfishly, I'm really glad that we've moved out of Miami. I'm really glad we've moved out of that McNamara house because we were just all sick of it.
Other than Brazil, LA is the plastic surgery, capital of the world. So I thought, well, we would get maybe, 4 more years of mileage in the new city. And indeed, I think when you do that, you reinvigorate the actors and you reinvigorate the writers.
They all do come out here. Matt comes out, Kimber comes out, Julia comes out, each with their own crazy subplot.
I come here because Sean's here, basically. And, it's also a good place to start a new leaf and all that kind of stuff.
I don't know, to be honest with you, if the move to LA will be good for Matt. I think ultimately it will be. I think it has to be. I think that, he's a guy who's reached sort of the end of his line. I mean, I've honestly been waiting for Matt to commit suicide for 3 years now, and he has yet to do it.
The move will be a great thing for Liz. I mean, just in the fact that Miami was very bittersweet, and I think toward the end it was more bitter than sweet.
I think the move is going to be a really good thing for Kimber because she's coming to Hollywood, and really she's always wanted to be an actress and a movie star. So, I'm sure she thinks this is totally her stomping grounds and she can spread her wings and it's going to be great, except for we need to get over the meth thing before she can be an actress.
I think that it's a great time for him to make this move, and I think we think he's out of his midlife crisis, and he's not. I'll be playing this midlife crisis when I'm 67, so. But, you know, it's like everything in the show. Nothing is just good.
Season 5,
It's provocative.
A fresh start.
racier.
Heart-wrenching.
Tongue-in-cheek,
Hopefully clever.
Bizarre.
It's dark.
light,
Funnier.
Yeah, I would say different. I'd say funny.
funny,
Funny.
It's funny.
Yeah, it's sort of funny.
sexy,
Unique.
Fantastic.
Tragic.
So bigger, better,
Fresh and different.
more glamorous.
Huh? 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 First couple of episodes are pretty funny. In fact, they're very funny. I'd say probably our funniest episodes. And then episode 3, we go dark, and then it kind of tends off into the whole dark thing. And then at some point in time, we'll kill people and rip out their kidneys or livers or hearts or whatever it is. And then we'll end up, you know, having Christmas around the table and passing bread.
The boys sort of switch roles. I think there's a great surprise for the audience in terms of Jolie's character, Julia, what she's discovering about herself. I would say everybody has that. Matt and Kimber take unexpected, freaky turns. Roma has really great stuff to do that you wouldn't expect. Everybody this year is very torn by the idea of who they were and who they should be. So everybody is very much in transition, which is what LA is all about. People come out here to sort of be discovered. So the theme of those characters is sort of discovering themselves in many ways for the first time, I think.
So far, Julia's storyline has been really interesting because she is very happy and in this new relationship. But Dylan, Sean has gone off with someone else, but she's still got a little thing for Christian.
I think this is a very funny season. And I think because everyone from McNamara Troy are the small fish in the big pond, they're awkward, they're not knowing, they're innocent, so it lends to a lot of humor. They're desperate. I mean, and I think desperation leads to ending up in a lot of dilemmas that they ordinarily wouldn't have.
I think his fatherly side, in a weird way, comes out more just in the relationship that he has with his baby, with Jenna. You know, I think through the haze of the drugs, you know, he actually has a sincere love and affection for this child. And I think that may ultimately be what inspires him to change his ways.
I don't even know that you're going to see her motherly sides. So far, you haven't. Yet this year, she's completely ignored her child, which is horrible for me as a person to do. Kimber's going to be really nasty this year, and I think we've seen that side to her, but I think we've always understood why she's been nasty. This year, we may not understand it. She just may be full-blown, like, nasty.
This year, I mean, obviously this year is going to be completely about LA and what does that bring out in people and what are the differences. And I don't know. I mean, you know, we're in the middle of it. I thought this was going to be just a lot funnier, but we're into episode 6 and there's been some really dark stuff. So I don't know. I think that'll kind of, we'll know that later.
I kind of don't want them to know too much, you know, when we're doing it. I want it to be a surprise to them. So we've done pretty good at keeping it under wraps, but sometimes I'll give them little things. You know, they're always going to ask what actresses am I going to be with, what patients am I going to have, what are my clothes like, things like that are fun. So I give them little things.
We only get given bits at a time of what's happening.
Which I appreciate, actually, because I know they're ever changing, and it's fine. I have no expectation, except that it'll be something I would never have thought of.
No, they give us bit by bit. And to be honest, I don't really want to know the whole arc. I like getting a script and reading a script kind of like an audience gets to see the show. And I like kind of taking it day by day. In fact, I usually don't read it until I get in here and have to perform it that morning.
I have found that if I get too far ahead, it's not very good. You kind of want to stay in the moment. So they'll give you kind of an episode or two notice.
You know, from the beginning, I've learned that if any of the writers, Ryan included, come up to you and tell you what the arc of your story is for the season, you should throw it away immediately, because anytime you get, you know, especially that group of people in a room together, things change.
Actually, this year I didn't even get a vague idea. I knew kind of right before we were shooting that we were going to be doing the meth storyline, so I could do some research, but I really don't know. I don't know anything past episode 7, and we're on 5.